The United States of America, 1861. It was turbulent times, and the nation was split along divisions running north and south. Through the division, the election of 1860 had proved victorious for the Republican Party. The people had voted, and Abraham Lincoln was to be president. Despite secession in the South and ongoing disputes over slavery, Lincoln resolved to remain removed from the public eye. But Inauguration Day was set for March 1861, and Lincoln had high hopes for his new administration. With the mounting divisions, dark clouds loomed ahead. With Inauguration Day approaching, Lincoln had to get to the Capitol. Beginning from his home in Springfield, Illinois, Lincoln made 93 stops on his whistle-stop tour before reaching Washington, D.C. His expected timetable and plans for arrival were sent to newspapers across his tour. More important than where he went, though, was what Lincoln said. Addressing crowds from the back of his train car, on hotel balconies, and on park benches, he gave numerous speeches and impromptu remarks. These short addresses contained little of Lincoln's plans for the presidency. In preparing for his role, though, Lincoln's specific use of pronouns revealed a lot about his ideas. Conscious of it or not, his views of unity, equality of rights, and leadership are all emphasized through his use of pronouns. But from where did this emphasis on pronouns come from? To begin to understand this history, one must look back over 2,000 years to ancient Greece. It was here that poets like Archilochus, Alcaeus, and Sappho first explored lyric poetry. Looking at Sappho's "Stand Up and Look at Me" face to face, one can see how the Greek monody focused on the dichotomy between the second person you and the first person I. As W.R. Johnson extracts in The Idea of Lyric, this I-you separation was made for performance, expressing emotion, and portraying a larger universality. Moving forward in Western history, poets like Horace and Catullus used pronouns in their own unique way. By focusing on meditative poems, these poets addressed themselves and others in apostrophe in order to explore deeper ideas of isolation and existence. Abandoning the comparative use of pronouns, these poets still viewed their writing in the eyes of a wider society. This context of lyrical poetry and pronoun use has influenced rhetoric for generations. In 19th century America, such emphasis on pronouns was used by many orators, including Abraham Lincoln. So when it comes to Lincoln's train tour from Springfield to Washington, D.C., the use of pronouns was very significant. In many ways, these pronouns emphasize ideas of unity in Lincoln's vision of the United States. To create this unity, Lincoln used religion. He drew from the common ideas of Christianity to bring his audience together in Indianapolis. He referenced the faith of his listeners to create unity in Cincinnati. And in Philadelphia, he used images of a religious site to create a community. Standing in Independence Hall in Philadelphia, Lincoln said, quote, "All my political warfare has been in favor of the teachings that come forth from these sacred walls. May my right hand forget its cunning, and my tongue cleave to the roof of my mouth, if ever I prove false to those teachings." Comparing Independence Hall to Jerusalem in this allusion to the Book of Psalms, Lincoln emphasizes his own political warfare and right hand. This use of the first person serves to unify the larger audience with his inclusion of fellow citizens in the next sentence. Similar techniques are used to create unity based on a shared history. Speaking to the New Jersey Senate, Lincoln shows how, quote, "You all know the common revolutionary stories." Such unifying rhetoric is again used in Buffalo when Lincoln addresses the future of the United States by using "we." In instances like these, Lincoln creates a clear separation between you and I, as is common in the tradition of Greek lyric poetry. Through this separation, Lincoln expresses universality and ultimately uses the first-person plural, we, to bring his audience together as one. Beyond these references to unity, Lincoln also emphasizes equality through his use of pronouns. Although he never explicitly spoke about his ideas of equality or civil rights, Lincoln used pronouns to make his position clear. In Cleveland, Lincoln spoke of, quote, the whole American people, and not for one single man alone, to advance the great cause of the Union and the Constitution. In further emphasizing, quote, every man, over and over again, Lincoln does not distinguish you or I, but uses this third-person phrase to show the universality of rights. As in this quotation, Lincoln also repeatedly draws on the Constitution in conjunction with the idea of liberty. But as Lincoln begins his tour on the East Coast, reaching original colonies like Pennsylvania and New Jersey, he begins to draw more and more on the Declaration of Independence. He recognizes those who signed this document by expressing how, quote, the weights would be lifted from the shoulders of all men and that all should have an equal chance. Lincoln also showed equality with political parties, constantly thanking his bipartisan audiences using the second person to create one unified audience. In Cincinnati, Ohio, Lincoln also showed equality between states as he looked out toward Kentucky in the South. Lincoln's cry to "you" in Kentucky serves as an apostrophe, a characteristic of a meditative poem in the Western tradition of lyric poetry. Lincoln's attempts at unity and equality, however, seem to be stopped by his inclusion in the "we" of the North, almost taking sides in the Civil War yet to come. Yet these ideas of equality were perhaps supplementary to Lincoln's broader views on leadership. Touring around the country by train, Lincoln made a large public appearance since his election the previous year. His pronouns added a lot of meaning to the few words he shared. One of the uses of these pronouns was to reassure Americans that they could trust their president's power. At stations in Rochester, Syracuse, and Utica, Lincoln shared only a few words with listeners, allowing them to see his image before leaving. By emphasizing first-person pronouns, Lincoln made this reassurance possible. Before leaving his home in Springfield, Lincoln admitted that, quote, I now leave, not knowing when or whether ever I may return, with the task before me greater than that which rested upon Washington. Such emphasis separates Lincoln's professional responsibility and the office of the executive from the masses. Lincoln was also careful to balance his ideas with those around him. In Albany, Poughkeepsie, and Harrisburg, he expressed his humility as, quote, an instrument for the American people by using the Greek I and you dichotomy. Lincoln even suggested that his election was not, quote, the wisest thing. This intense humility only further serves his leadership motives of connecting with the American people. After being silent for so long, Lincoln's inaugural train ride from Springfield, Illinois to Washington, D.C. forced him into public conversation. Traveling all across the North, Lincoln met many Americans and was able to formulate many new opinions and questions. By his varied use of pronouns, it was clear that Lincoln's ideas of unity, equality, and leadership were adapting to the new role ahead of him. The pronouns that he did use revealed a lot about his inner thoughts and ideas, with the I-you dichotomy for unity, third person for equality, and first person for leadership. For many Americans, Lincoln was perceived as a humble, thoughtful, and worthy president for the job before the country. Without this train journey, and the pronouns accompanying it, the United States would have been less ready for the Civil War that loomed ahead.